Ever wonder who makes all that stuff you see every day? Phone cases, coffee maker parts, even those little plastic toys.
We're talking about the often unseen world of compression molding machine operators, and you've come to the right place for a deep dive.
We've got a stack of info from RoleCatcher to unpack today, and trust me, it's way more interesting than it might sound.
Oh, absolutely.
Apparently, there's a lot more to this field than just pressing a button.
That's right. RoleCatcher really emphasizes the expertise involved. Think about it. You're working with different types of plastics, each with its own melting point, cooling time, and ideal pressure. It's a bit like being a chef, but instead of flour and sugar, you're using polymers and heat to create something new.
You got me craving a plastic spatula now. But you're right, there's a real science to it, and RoleCatcher broke it down into these distinct career stages. Did you know you don't just stay glued to the same machine forever? There's a whole ladder to climb.
It's a great example of how hands-on experience can lead to serious career progression. They highlight how important it is to understand those nuances we talked about, selecting the right plastic for the job, calibrating the temperature precisely, even troubleshooting those inevitable machine hiccups.
And speaking of troubleshooting, it seems like that's a skill employers are really looking for. RoleCatcher's interview guide kept mentioning questions like, can you describe a time you had to solve a problem with the machinery?
They're looking for people who can think on their feet, analyze a situation, and come up with a solution, often under pressure. Imagine a production line grinding to a halt because of a faulty die. That's the mold that shapes the plastic, by the way. You need someone who can identify the problem and get things moving again.
Talk about pressure. I bet those problem-solving muscles get a real workout in this field. But on a more positive note, RoleCatcher did paint a surprisingly optimistic picture of the job outlook for compression molding machine operators.
They're predicting 4% job growth from 2019 to 2029, which is pretty impressive, especially when you consider how much talk there is about automation replacing manufacturing jobs.
Okay, that's surprising. So why are these jobs actually increasing when robots are taking over the world? Or at least the factories?
It's all about the interplay between human skills and automation. While robots might excel at repetitive tasks, you still need skilled operators to oversee the process, troubleshoot issues, and ensure that those automated systems are running smoothly.
So it's not a case of robots versus humans, but rather robots and dehumans working together.
Precisely. It's about leveraging technology to improve efficiency while recognizing the irreplaceable value of human expertise.
That makes a lot of sense. So instead of fearing the rise of machines, maybe it's about learning how to work alongside them to become even more specialized and valuable in the process.
Exactly. And that's something RoleCatcher stresses throughout their guides. The importance of continuous learning and adaptability in this field. As technology evolves, so too must the skill set of the operator.
It's like that old saying, adapt or die. But in this case, it's adapt or get replaced by a robot. And speaking of adapting, RoleCatcher mentions some really interesting advancements within the field itself. Remember those dies we talked about earlier? The molds that give the plastic its shape?
Absolutely. Those dies are at the heart of the molding process, and RoleCatcher highlighted how specializing in a particular type of die or molding technique can open up some serious career opportunities.
So instead of being a jack of all dies, you become the master of one specific type.
Precisely. You become the go-to expert for a certain type of product, material, or even a complex molding process. That level of specialization can make you a real asset to a company.
Especially if you're the only one who can wrangle that temperamental high-grade plastic into submission. But it's not just about the technical skills, is it? RoleCatcher seemed to emphasize those soft skills as well: communication, teamwork, problem solving.
Those skills become even more critical as you move up the career ladder. Think about it. You're collaborating with engineers, maybe even training and mentoring new operators. You're not just pressing buttons, you're leading a team and sharing your expertise.
So you're not just a compression molding machine operator, you're a mentor, a leader, a plastic whisperer. It's fascinating how much depth there is to this field.
There's a lot more to it than people realize. It's not just about working with your hands, it's about using your head too.
Okay, so let's say someone listening to this is thinking, this all sounds pretty cool. Where do I even start? What would be RoleCatcher's advice for breaking into the exciting world of compression molding?
Well, they have a whole section dedicated to getting started, and it's full of practical advice. First and foremost, they emphasize the importance of gaining hands-on experience. even if it means starting in an entry-level position.
So don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, literally.
Exactly. It's about getting comfortable with the environment, learning from experienced operators, and building those essential foundational skills.
Because, let's be honest, no amount of book learning can fully prepare you for the heat, the noise, the pressure of a real-life molding operation.
Precisely. But speaking of book learning, RoleCatcher does recommend exploring vocational training programs or courses related to plastics and molding processes.
So it's a good idea to have some theoretical knowledge to back up that hands-on experience.
Absolutely. They also highlight the importance of networking, attending industry events, joining relevant associations. It's all about making connections, staying informed about the latest trends, and potentially even finding your dream job.
Because you never know who you might meet at a trade show. It could be the person who gives you your big break.
Exactly. And as you gain experience, they also suggest creating a portfolio or a showcase of your work.
Oh yeah, the plastic resume we talked about earlier.
Precisely. It's a chance to highlight your skills and experience in a tangible way. Photos of projects you've worked on, descriptions of those complex molding processes you've mastered. It's a great way to stand out from the crowd.
It's like saying, look, I don't just talk the talk, I mold the mold.
Exactly. And speaking of standing out, RoleCatcher has some pretty cool tools to help you prepare for those all-important job interviews. Their interview prep section is a gold mine of information, from common questions to expert-crafted answers.
They even have that AI-powered feature that analyzes your responses and gives personalized feedback, right?
That's right. It's like having a personal interview coach in your pocket. It's a great example of how technology can be used to empower job seekers.
Okay, so we've talked about breaking into this field, but let's be honest, at the end of the day, it often comes down to one thing: the Benjamins. What's the earning potential like for a compression molding machine operator?
That's a question on everyone's mind, and fortunately, RoleCatcher provides some insights into salary expectations. Keep in mind, though, that it varies depending on experience, location, company size, and specialization.
Usual suspects. But give me a ballpark figure. What are we talking about here?
According to RoleCatcher's data, the median annual salary for compression molding machine operators in the U.S. was around $35,000 as of December 2023.
Okay, so not exactly a get-rich-quick scheme, but a decent starting point. But it sounds like there's room for growth. What kind of salary bump could someone expect as they climb that career ladder and gain those specialized skills?
While specific figures are hard to pin down, RoleCatcher suggests that experienced operators, especially those with sought-after specializations, can earn well above that median salary.
So potentially upwards of $50,000, maybe even more, depending on the factors you mentioned earlier. Plus, we haven't even factored in those sweet, sweet benefits.
Exactly. Benefits packages, especially in manufacturing, can significantly add to your overall compensation. Health insurance, retirement plans, paid time off. These perks can make a big difference.
It's all about looking at the bigger picture.
Precisely. It's about finding a career that aligns with your interests, your skills, and your long-term goals.
And hey, if you enjoy working with your hands, have a knack for problem solving, and don't mind a little heat, then maybe becoming a compression molding machine operator is your calling.
It's definitely a field with a lot to offer, and as we've seen, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
We've covered a lot of ground today, but there's one more thing I'm curious about, something RoleCatcher mentioned that piqued my interest. They touched upon the fact that this job can sometimes involve working with hazardous materials. That caught my attention, to say the least.
You're right, that's an important aspect to address. While working with plastics might not immediately scream danger, it's crucial to be aware of the potential risks.
Because nobody wants to star in their own workplace accident documentary. So let's dive into that a bit. What kinds of materials should someone be particularly cautious around in this line of work?
Okay, so last time we were getting into the nitty-gritty of safety hazards in the world of compression molding machine operators. You know, those hazardous materials RoleCatcher mentioned? What are we talking about here? What's the real deal when it comes to staying safe on the job? Well, it's a crucial aspect of any manufacturing role, and compression molding is no exception. Well, the plastics themselves might not be inherently dangerous. It's the materials, USED in the process, that can pose some risks.
Like those resins and hardeners we discussed earlier, what exactly makes them so risky?
Exactly. Those are a prime example.
Yeah.
Many resins and hardeners contain chemicals that release potentially harmful fumes when heated or mixed around. Inhaling these fumes can irritate your respiratory system and in some cases even lead to more serious health concerns down the line.
So good ventilation is critical, right? You don't want to be stuck in a room full of those fumes.
Absolutely. Proper ventilation is non-negotiable. But it's not just about clearing the air. RoleCatcher also emphasizes the importance of personal protective equipment. Think gloves, goggles, and masks, especially when handling these materials directly.
Right, because even if you're not directly breathing in those fumes, you don't want that stuff getting on your skin either.
Exactly. And that's not all. RoleCatcher also highlighted the potential risks associated with certain release agents. Remember those. They're used to prevent the molded plastic from sticking to the dies.
Right, like a super-powered non-stick spray. What's the catch with those?
Well, some release agents contain solvents or other chemicals that can be harmful through skin contact or inhalation. It's like we were saying before, it's not always the plastic itself that's the issue, but rather the materials used alongside it.
It's a good reminder to read those labels carefully and always err on the side of caution. But what happens if, despite all the precautions, an accident does occur?
That's where those sometimes tedious safety drills and emergency procedures come in handy. They might seem like overkill, but they're designed to minimize harm and ensure everyone knows what to do in a crisis.
Right, because even the most experienced operator can't predict everything. Speaking of which, RoleCatcher also touched on the importance of regulations and industry standards when it comes to safety. What's the deal with those? Who sets the rules in the world of compression molding?
It's not just about individual responsibility. There are actual agencies and guidelines in place to protect workers. In the U.S., a big one is OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. They set and enforce workplace safety and health standards for various industries, including manufacturing.
OSHA, they're like the safety superheroes of the workplace. What kind of specific regulations apply to this field?
Well, for starters, there are strict regulations around the handling, storage, and disposal of hazardous materials. This includes everything from proper labeling and ventilation requirements to specific training mandates for employees. Then there are regulations surrounding machine guarding, noise levels, and other potential hazards specific to this type of manufacturing environment.
It's reassuring to know there's a whole system in place designed to minimize risks and keep those working in these environments safe.
Absolutely. And the best part is that RoleCatcher actually provides links to some of these organizations and resources on their website.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in learning more about the specific regulations in your region, that's a great place to start.
Knowledge is power. Or in this case, knowledge is a safe and healthy work environment. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into the world of compression molding machine operators. From the technical aspects and career paths to salary expectations and those all-important safety considerations, we've explored it all.
We've seen how technology is changing the game, the importance of continuous learning, and the enduring value of those human skills, like problem solving and adaptability.
It's been an eye-opening look at a field that's often overlooked but plays a crucial role in shaping the world around us. So the next time you pick up your phone, open a Tupperware container, or even hand a plastic toy to a child, take a moment to think about the skilled individuals who helped make those everyday objects a reality.
They are the unsung heroes of modern manufacturing, blending technical expertise with those essential human skills to bring innovation to life.
And who knows, maybe you'll even be inspired to join their ranks one day. Until next time, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.